Hi, Patrick. It's so great to have you here with us today during our European VC Spotlight campaign. Really excited to meet you further, get to know you further today. So let's kick off the session. Maybe you can briefly tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, hey Dilan, thanks for having me. So I'm one of the 3 general partners over here at Foundamental. Foundamental is the world's largest construction tech investor across the globe. I'll come back to this later. And I take care of our Europe investments. And on the private side, I like to say I am plant-based. I'm not vegan, so I eat plant-based. And why I mention that is I might be the only vegan in the world who is actually over his medically recommended weight. You won't find many vegans who can say that. Love dogs. So if you have something on dogs, hit me up on Twitter.
Cool. Well, I actually have 2 dogs. They're sleeping in the background. Let's hope the postman doesn't ring the bell because that will set them off. But yeah, really pleasure to have you today. Obviously, Foundamental as a VC is quite special with your specialism. One of the few that currently focus on Contech. But I'll let you tell us a little bit more about that. So tell us a little bit more about the VC you're representing here today, and also a little bit more about the VC, you know, the setup, the size, where does your focus lie, maybe your ticket size, your portfolios, anything you think might be worth sharing with us today.
Sure. So let me start off with scope first. So LMRE says you're partners in Proptech, right? So that's the first thing I actually want to highlight. So for us, Contech and Proptech are obviously brothers and sisters in a way, but they're also separate to us. So in Proptech, a lot of the technology that you find out there, and by the way, there are terrific funds that take care of that. But a lot of the technology in Proptech actually addresses existing buildings. And oftentimes the problem is, how do you maximize the utilization? How do you decrease cost? How do you increase the revenue of managing those existing buildings? Contech has a different set of problems. So Contech is always about either creating an asset or transforming an asset, i.e. renovation, or even deconstructing it. And there the problem set is oftentimes about managing the supply chains, creating an efficient procurement, selecting materials, designing the building. So it's a very different set of problems, which also, you know, sees a different set of startups being successful within construction tech. So we focus entirely construction tech, and oftentimes with a supply chain angle. We invest globally, so 45% of our capital is actually deployed in Asia Pacific, while the other 55% are deployed across the mature markets in North America and in Europe. And we're an early stage investor. So we like to invest as early as pre-seed, you know, founders with a slide deck. If they're really rock star founders, we have done that multiple times. For example, we've backed Alec and the crew from DigitalOcean in their very, very first pre-seed round when they moved into creating welcome homes in Contech. But we also invest as late as Series B. So we are quite opportunistic that way for a first check. But then our investment strategy is to really double and triple down on high-performing companies within our portfolio very aggressively. And we are not beyond preempting follow-on rounds. That's part of our strategy as well.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Certainly sounds really, really exciting. We have a lot of Contech clients actually, and we hear it time and time again that in a way, you know, pre-COVID, it was one of those sectors that was really behind in terms of digital solutions, and they really needed them. And because of COVID, that's been a sort of positive accelerator to get people to be, I suppose, more open to that change within the sector. And a lot of our Contech clients in particular are experiencing rapid growth at the moment. So yes, very, very interesting, like you say, sort of, I don't want to say subcategory within Proptech because it isn't really, but yeah, brother-sister relationship, I suppose, of that digital real estate space. And yeah, definitely a space that we're watching very closely and that we're involved with very closely. And great to have you. And like I said, I'm sure these companies in that space really appreciate having a VC that specializes in that space, that really understands that their pain points and that can support them in their growth and their different phases. So on that note then of growth, what are your plans for 2021, or what is left now of 2021?
So we've had a great start into the year. Our first fund is now 2.5 years in, so we're still investing from the first fund. We still have dry powder, but at the beginning of the year, we became the world's first Proptech Contech investor with an early unicorn company called Inframarket that we were early investors alongside Excel. Received a growth round from Tiger Global, and obviously our plan for 2021 is to mint a few more unicorns from our portfolio. So that obviously is the hope, is the plan. But maybe more of a macro view, Dilan, is I think generally you can say that the construction sector is still underinvested, under-innovated. And we've done some pattern recognition, how other sectors prior to construction tech, including Proptech, by the way, logistics tech, consumer tech, travel tech, when did they hit that inflection point? And it's typically at the point when you have 10 billion of cumulated VC funding in any given sector, and construction tech just hit that. So construction tech just received those 10 billion cumulated funding, and it typically takes from there 2 to 3 years to get to 50 billion. So basically a 5x in 3 years. And that's what we expect, to happen this year, next year, and the year after. So quite exciting.
Busy times ahead indeed. And obviously also congrats on your unicorn portfolio company. That's really exciting. That's a great milestone. I guess that's what it's all about for AVC. Also, obviously, as a recruiter, we get approached a lot by candidates that are really, really interested in the VC space. And what advice then would you give these candidates that are looking to enter the VC space, the Contech VC space in particular? What information would you give to them?
So I think it's important not to hesitate. Right now is really the time to move because of the inflection that I just mentioned. But the same can be said about Proptech. So I think it's important not to hesitate. Secondly, if you want to break into VC, it's important to really show that you have gained the relevant investing experience. And that's oftentimes the big barrier. So what I see many candidates successfully do at the beginning of their VC career is to find analyst programs. Sometimes they are limited to a year, becoming an intern with a great fund, becoming an intern with a specialist fund for a year, building out that initial set of experiences, and using that then also to obviously demonstrate that you're pretty good at your job, and then using also the network that you're building through that to land a full-time and long-term job. I think don't hesitate and don't be above, also taking these experiences through an internship analyst program. I think that's important.
Okay, fantastic. I think that's really good in-depth advice. So candidates, take note, obviously reach out to Patric of Fundamental if you're interested in getting involved in the Contech VC space. And otherwise, thank you so much, Patric, for joining us today. I hope everyone gains some value from this little session, and have a great rest of the day and speak to you very soon.
Thanks a ton for having me, Dilan.